It's important to be able to divide words into syllables in Spanish. The main reason this is important is to be able to pronounce the words correctly, particularly when it comes to which part of the word to stress or emphasize. Generally speaking, this is a fairly simple thing to do. There are a few nitpicky little rules, but we're not particularly concerned with those right now. Let's look at the big picture. The most important thing that we need to know is that typically syllables begin with a consonant. Let's look at an example. Here we have a word and we can more or less sound it out and clap along like you kind of learned to do in elementary school. Comunicar. We can hear that we have 4 syllables there. Comunicar. We may not know exactly where to divide them, but this rule helps us out quite a bit. So we start with co, and then if our next syllable is going to start with a consonant, we know that we have to divide there before the m. And we just keep going through like that. Comunicar. Now, like I said, there are some exceptions to this, the most obvious of which is that if a word begins with a vowel, then the first syllable also obviously has to begin with a vowel. Here's an example of that, enfermo. Obviously our first syllable is going to begin with a vowel because the word does. We have in, fer, mo. And this brings us to our next important point, which is that each syllable must be pronounceable. We see that here we divided between the N and the F. Following our rule about beginning with a consonant, we could have theoretically made this a syllable, but that's not pronounceable. So that can't be a syllable. Likewise, this could not be a syllable because mo is not really pronounceable. The next thing that we need to know is that if 2 vowels are next to each other, they're usually 2 separate syllables. Here we have an example of that with the word bromear. Our first syllable is bro, but then we divide between the E and the A, so that gives us me and ar. Notice that here we do break our rule about beginning with a consonant. This is another exception to that rule. However, the vowels I and U are considered weak vowels. They're not strong enough to get their own syllable when they come next to another vowel, unless they have a written accent mark on them. That written accent mark makes them strong and gives them their own syllable, but otherwise they get included in the same syllable as whatever other vowel they're next to. So for instance, in the word dientes, we have I and E right next to each other, but I is a weak vowel, so it does not get its own syllable. Dientes would be divided here between the N and the T, dientes. But mio has an accent mark on the I, therefore we divide between the I and the O, and we have mi and o as our 2 syllables. So it seems a little bit overwhelming maybe at first glance, but if you stick to the clapping rule that you learned in elementary school, you can generally find your way through the syllables. These other little rules are just to kind of clarify in a few confusing situations. The more you practice with it, the more you work with it, the easier it will become for you.